All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the 6th episode of Sentenced to Greatness podcast with your host, Isaac Conaway and Marcel Zborek. And today we got none other than Mr. Dusty Hanshaw in the house. So I'm excited for this one. How are you doing, Dusty?
Awesome, man. I'm glad to finally be on here and see what you guys got going on here.
Yeah, man. It's good to get you on. We've been talking about it, and we're like, all right, we just got to get this guy and talk to him, get him on. Right away.
Simple
Right?
enough. Simple enough.
And so, what you got going on right now, Dusty? I know you're back trying to work your way up, right, in weight. And
Yep.
What's the deal? I know you got that going on in the 75 hard as well, right?
Yeah, I started doing what it was, truthfully, was I started doing that because I was just having trouble clicking in. I'm not used to – I didn't have a clear goal with what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. Like, I knew I didn't have any intention like rushing back to compete or anything like that. I wanted to put my size back on, and I kept kind of bouncing back and forth. I'd have a minute where I was like, well, I'm just going to get as big as fucking possible again. And then it was like, well
Right. –
maybe I want to keep it tighter and just back and forth, back and forth. So finally I said, fuck it, let me start that and just kind of see if I can get my shit together and actually have a plan that I'm planning to stick to. It's funny, but I think a lot of people make that mistake where, especially in my case, where you're sick, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming people know, but obviously the quick rundown was in a coma, lost 70 pounds and
Took a nice sleep.
yeah, took a little nap. And woke up from that and decided I just came back, and the first course of action was just to get back to it and eat and train. But I didn't really have a plan other than, God, don't be small anymore. So rushed that shit, kind of got back to a point, and then it kind of became a marketing thing. And that's what, you know, we had kind of discussed for this episode is how to market, and you got to have a plan. It's really easy when you're competing. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm off season, and then people know you're trying to grow. And that's, well, I'm in pre-contest, and I'm doing this show on the 12th of July and 16 weeks out. It's very easy to tell those stories versus where I was at, where I didn't really know what it was I was trying to do. You know, so
Right.
now it's pretty clear. I've decided my body's clicking now, because in the beginning, one thing I didn't really put it out there, but I wasn't sure what was coming back and what wasn't. The right half of my upper body wasn't working when I got out of the hospital. So I couldn't – there were certain things that wouldn't work at all. But, I mean, to give you guys an idea, like to do a dumbbell fly, okay, I could literally throw 20-pound dumbbells up, and that's why I said 20, and then brace, and I could do the movement, but I couldn't, like, curl one up. So once it got heavier, like even like 35s, Tommy had to hand them to me at the top part of of an incline fly or something, so I could grab them and then I could function from there, but I couldn't get them there. So that was a bit of a mind fuck. And then of course pressing that side was just not there. So it was one of those things where I just chose to not think about it, just do everything I could to the best that I could. And, you know, I mean, for the most part, it's funny. In hindsight, you realize it was very fast. But during it seemed like forever. You know, when I was in the midst of it, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. How is that doing now? Are you back to like 100%? Everything's connecting, everything's working, or are you still kind of in that recovery phase where things are coming back, but you feel like you're not at 100 yet?
My body's function is at 100. Now it's just getting back to the strength. You know, so it's funny because also during that time, because of that, so like my right side, the bicep was smaller, the shoulders in general, because I couldn't press and laterals were impossible, are just down in size, which is affecting everything. That's affecting pressing on chest, shoulders, whatever. Yeah. But it's starting to click pretty quick now. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I first risked trying 315 on a barbell 2 weeks ago, and I got 4. Yeah. And I actually was like, all right, it's not – I mean, it moved, so that's good. But then a week later I got 6, and then a week after that I got 8. So, I mean, obviously you guys know if you were in normal land, if you had never done that before, you'd be shooting for 5 2 weeks later, not 8. You know, you wouldn't be doubling your numbers. So right now it's really good. I think things are going to click quick. And more importantly, my mind, I'm back to where I'm just going to the gym to work. Whereas for that first 12 weeks, it was really like, what can I do today? Now it's starting to get back to what can I not do, which is fun. And it's also nice that I'm in a gym that doesn't know me. So it's interesting. Like, you know, I'm doing things now that are less than I used to do. And people think it's crazy. And I'm kind of laughing in the back of my head, like, oh, well, shit, we're just getting more.
Yeah, right. You're like, we're just getting started here.
They have no clue. They have no clue what they're getting themselves into over there.
Yeah, so it's good. It timed out well. I'm going to go back to Arizona in 2 weeks and train with Tommy, which will be fun. It's funny. I mean, it's essentially a trip just to work out. Like, I have no plans other than eating and training and work like always, you know, so it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the big reason why we want to have you on here, because, you know, I know myself and as well as Isaac, we both look up to you in a great deal of respect when it comes to making yourself marketable and, you know, being successful, you know, with supporting yourself and creating an income through bodybuilding, through social media without having to compete all the time and, you know, not being, you know, the top guy when it comes to the competitive side, but you figured out some kind of an awesome formula or a way to just be supporting yourself and creating an income through bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And that is something that we feel like a lot of people overlook in this industry. They just focus on the competing side of things. And they don't focus on, hey, how am I going to pay for my competing? And how am I going to, you know, create an income when I'm done with the stage? So that is definitely something that we want to pick your brain a little bit about. So how did you get into the whole social media marketing game? And when did you start realizing, hey, that this is something that, you know, I could create an income with?
So I started, man, how many years is it now? 7, 12, 13. Wow. So 13 years ago, is that right? Yeah. 13 years ago is when
MySpace?
First started, yeah, no shit. Right? Actually, what it was, and this is the part that I think I was fortunate about back then, was these things all existed, but I didn't think anything of them. What it was is I won a show. I won the Border States overall, and at the time I was already sponsored. I'd call it almost an ambassador point back then. I had a little, you know, it was a little above. I mean, they paid me like $500 a month. And then all my competing and stuff like that. But what happened was I did a show and I won. And Todd, my video guy, at the time I didn't know him, he asked the owner of iForce, they were friends, they said, hey, if you're going to do a photo shoot with him tomorrow, can I come film it? And he was like, sure. So he came and filmed it, not a professional videographer or anything, just something he does in his, you know, for fun. And we had some fun with it, and we were like, all right, we'll throw it on YouTube, whatever. And then, you know, a little down the line, he was like, what if I came out and we filmed working out and stuff? So I was like, all right, go ahead. And when he came out at the time, I didn't really have a vision for where it was going to be. But fortunately, what I did was I just pretended I was hanging out with Todd, forgot the camera was there, and we started doing shit. So we were going, I needed to go get food. So we went to Costco and he came in with me and he's like, I'm going to film it. And I'm like, okay, seems weird, but whatever. So we filmed it and I literally just bullshitted with Todd, forgetting he was holding a camera. And next thing you know, it kind of just started rolling and people knew who I was. And, you know, and then once I realized what was happening, then I took a step back and said, okay, wait, there's something here. Yeah. What am I going to do with this? And so I just took a second and looked at what I was doing and what was working and tried to figure out why. Because, you know, I was a fan of bodybuilding. I had all the Mitsuru Okabe videos of all the top guys, and I started thinking about what I would watch. Yeah. I didn't really care to see a full workout. You know, like Mitsuru, I used to laugh because it was like he didn't edit anything. You had 97 hours of footage, and he would throw them on a DVD, and he's like, there you go. And I'm like, fuck. Yeah. Like, you literally watched Jay's entire workout. Like, resting, warm ups. I'm like, no one wants to see this shit.
Yeah.
But I did start to realize that I was watching the life stuff. I knew his dogs. I knew his wife. I knew his house. I knew his cars. And I realized, I'm like, that's what people want to know. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, aside from, let's just say, for example, you know, the first time I deadlifted 800, people were like, holy fuck. You know, like it blew their mind. You know what happens the second time you pull 800? They've seen it before.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Right.
Like, and it's not a shot on them. That's how I feel. Like, it's still awesome. But the first time was really awesome because I didn't know you could do that. So what I realized was it was more important to invite people into my life. And so I made it a priority for them to know me. And that's why I started just doing dumb shit that I would do if I was fucking around without a camera, as far as seizing my food and bullshit I would say. And it just kind of started rolling. And I realized that although I was a bodybuilder, people were not following a bodybuilder, you know?
Right.
Exactly. Sorry to cut you off. Were you a pro at that time?
No.
Or was that before you turned pro? That was way early before that, right?
6 years before I turned pro. I think that's the thing that, you know, to kind of tie this in and not run it off too long onto Storyland is what people need to realize is the money is not just for pros. I think a lot of people, they're hunting this pro card so hard, and then they think something's magically going to happen when they turn pro. And I will tell you what's going to magically happen. You are now the worst pro there is. Congratulations.
You may never win a bodybuilding
unless
show
you're Nick
again.
Walker. Yeah, unless you're Nick Walker.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, unless you're, I mean, truthfully though, if you're not a freak,
Yeah.
and even furthermore, even if you are a good, I mean, let's just say you're a great bodybuilder, you're a second tier guy, you're not making any money. And I think that's the part, like for me, I knew I would lift weights and like, I didn't get into this to make money necessarily, like in the very beginning. But once I saw that I could, it became the purpose. This changed from a hobby to a business. But the business was never the stage. The stage was the story. So what I recommend to people is before you start running on your social media, what are you trying to do? Like, you know, you guys know this. You guys own businesses. You don't just open a business. And if you do, good fucking luck. I mean, and maybe you'll hobble through and survive. But at some point, if you want to be really successful, you need to sit down and say, okay, where am I trying to get? How much money am I trying to make? Who am I trying to impact? Who do I want to follow me? Okay, how do I make that happen? You see what I'm saying? And I think where people make the mistake is they're just putting shit up. Like, I put something about it yesterday. I hate when people regurgitate quotes. I'm like,
yes.
Well, that's cool that Mark Twain thought about that. What the fuck do you think? I want to know what you think. And if you're not benefiting me, because here's the deal. Like, think about this. You know, you guys, for example, if you're providing me a value, whether it's entertainment, education, you know, something along those lines that's beneficial to me, the fact that I'm a better bodybuilder or I have a better business, that doesn't change me from wanting to follow, you know? So I try to drive that home to people, like, go look at my following. Fuck, man, most of my friends are better than I am. Fuck, almost all of them are better than I am at bodybuilding. Yeah. But they follow me. I mean, Flex Lewis will message me before he starts prepping for the Olympian. He's like, hey, I need a lot of YouTube content. I got a lot of cardio to do. Get cracking. Entertain me, bitch. I'm going to win some Olympias. You do some fat boy shit. Let's do this.
So, with that being said, so pretty much to wrap this up, you know, to put it in a perspective for people that are trying to kind of not do the same thing, but get into that and get a better following, well, quality following, not just numbers, is to kind of create your own niche, see what you're good at, what kind of value you're providing for a person, and run with that.
Yeah, I mean, you need to do that, and you need to do it in a way that, think of it as any business. They'll tell you, if you want to make money in life, solve a problem. Okay? Now, the problem doesn't have to be, you know, I don't know, a light bulb. Like your problem can literally be, one second, I'm going to mute this shit for them.
You're good.
They're coming my guys and eat shit for a second. All right. So anyways,
podcast.
No. So what you want to do is solve a problem, but the problem can be as simple as entertaining people.
Right.
I think the issue that people have currently is instead of saying, what do I want? What do I do? What excites me? They go online and they say, Bradley Martin is bench pressing girls. I'm going to bench press girls. And it's like,
right.
Well, A, it's been done. B, like if you do things consistently with other people that are, especially if they're extremely well known, everybody goes, oh, you stole that from Brad.
Right.
Oh, you did that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're unoriginal. You're not solving any problem. You're not entertaining me other than the fact that I'm like, oh, you're literally copying someone else. Whereas it could be the most basic thing. For example, like Evan Centopani is one of my favorite people to follow. Okay. He puts up very little content because he's not obsessed about this. But Evan is Evan. Like I know him and then I see him online and that is him. He does not give a fuck. This is his personality. He's as blue collar as they come. And between him and Animal, they have created a way to get the most out of him where people identify with him. You know, people do love things. For example, I don't like motivation because I don't really believe in it. Motivation is fickle. It's temporary. But people love something that at least gets them churning. And you have to understand as an influencer, my job is not to make sure that you actually get off the couch and go reach your goals. My job is to share what I'm doing and how I'm doing that. And as long as you're watching and it gets you excited every day, cool. I hope you click over. I hope you follow through and do these things, but I can't make you. So I'm like a spark. You know what I mean? So that's what I try to look at is just purely a way to create value for people and understanding don't interpret the value you're bringing. Because I think that I tell people that all the time, like, I love your videos. And I'll ask, what do you follow? You know, like if we're going back and forth and sometimes people are like, man, it's just funny as hell. I'm like, cool. And other people are like, no, I want to see the training. I'm going to be like that. I'm going to do what you're doing. So for me, you know, to wrap it up and explain what I did is I just looked at myself and said, I'm not genetically great. I'm not extremely gifted in any way. I work really hard. I do see things differently. And I'm good with words. So I said, okay, people can relate to all of that because see, it's really hard for the three of us, for example, you know, you two guys, if you said, who can you relate with more, Dusty or Phil Heath? Well, fuck, it's obvious. Phil is not even human. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas I like the fact that for me, it's really simple. And you guys know this and believe it. Well, if he can make it in spite of all of his downfalls, well, why the fuck can't you? I mean, hell, there's things in your guys' physiques, for example, that are better than what I have. And, you know, if I was going to pick out weaknesses as far as born for bodybuilding, I can find more on me than I can on you guys. I'm just genetically fortunate that I can get very big, very easy. You know, so that's a plus. So I feel like a lot of people can look and be like, well, fuck, why can't I do that? And that's what I try to preach is you can, if you've got the balls.
So if somebody's starting off in this, fuckery of an industry that we're in, and that's the best way we can call it. Because I mean, you see everybody's an ambassador, everybody's affiliated with somebody, everybody's got a discount code, and I feel like that's what you're pretty much seeing all the time. So how do you? What ways do you recommend other than being authentic was to get noticed, and get some kind of get a step ahead of everybody else. So let's say you're part of, I don't know, Condemn Labs, right? Mm-hmm. And there's 50 other ambassadors. What would you recommend for somebody that's just starting out? What do you do to be a step ahead of everybody else and get noticed so you can, move up in the company and go from an ambassador to sponsored athletes to, making a salary and then just supporting yourself from it?
The first step is do not just sign with anyone who will give you an ambassador code. Hell, even if they'll pay you, don't do that. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's guys on our team who have promoted products that I'm like, dude, those suck. You know it sucks. Yeah. Like, don't post up about your fake ass Theragun that sucks balls, because it's not the same. And if I go buy that because you told me to and it sucks, well, that's now I don't know how to trust you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, beyond that, also think, do you line up with the company? Because, so for example, me, covered in tattoos, I can't seem to get 5 sentences into this without saying fuck. If Dymatize comes to me and is like, hey, I got an idea, we'd like to sponsor you, and we're going to pay you more money than you make currently, I got to look down the line a little bit and say, do I fit with them? Because I think what I would see in that scenario is, I'm like, okay, I can get, I'll get 200,000 now, and that's cool, but they're not going to re-sign me in a year, because they're going to realize, why did we sign him? He doesn't flow with our brand.
Yeah, he doesn't have the look for our brand.
And then you do that enough, and you're 6 years down the line, and let's remember this too. Everybody gets on with a company, and the first thing they do is tell you how it's the best thing they've ever used. They've never had better. And I'm like, but you're on your 6th company. You tell me that every time. You're losing credibility, So those are the first steps. Once you are in with the company, for example, Condemned was an easy fit for me. I looked at the brand, I looked at me, and I was like, yeah, we match. I had a 1-hour conversation with Michael, the owner, and we talked about things, made sure we were kind of on the same page. We said, all right, fuck it, let's roll. But once you're in, what you got to ask yourself is, beyond direct sales, how can I build for this brand and create revenue they would not have had without me? See, because where people get sideways, and I'll be honest, I hate the ambassador programs. And the reason I hate them is because all these people are giving it away for free, and then they wonder why they can't get paid.
Right.
Like, if everyone who was offered an ambassador spot said no in the entire world, these companies would have to pay. Right now, they don't have to. But because that's the world we're in, now you're in a different spot. I mean, you guys are in a spot where the only way in, if you're not Nick Walker, is to come in and prove yourself. So you guys are kind of already doing it, as far as, and I say you guys because people are following you. You've created more ways to be seen as individuals than as the company. But now the key is let's say I jump on this podcast and I got on here because you had Evan Centopani on. And I love Evan, and I jump on and I meet you guys. I'm like, oh, these are cool fucking guys. Okay, what are you doing on your individual social to separate yourself? What is your story? Because I think that's very key. And I think sometimes when athletes are using their social, they forget, or they don't even think about the fact is this your business or is this your playtime? Because I know a lot of people who have 2 social medias. They got the one for their family and their friends and their kids and all that. And then they have their business side. I also know people who only have the business, and they say, my kids being in my life are part of my business, but I'm going to be selective about how I share it so it makes sense. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because at the same time, you got to remember, if you're just hammering it with like your everyday family life constantly, if I don't know you, I don't know.
You don't care much about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I do want to know little stuff. Like, if you've noticed, I mean, I don't know how much you guys see because I post up so much crap, but like, people will ask about the dogs if I don't post them for a while. How are the dogs?
Right.
The same thing would happen with you guys, with your kids, if you choose to put them up. Obviously, like right now, Nikki's got 2 girls, and I've posted them, but I've never tagged them because I got too many people following me, too many fucking weirdos. I selectively, I'm like, they exist. No, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And I treat that, everything I do on social media is a thought process for the business. And I think that's very, very key. And make sure that everything's in line with your big thing. Because, for example, and this is something I see all the time, guys are trying to get on. Let's say you're single and you're dating and whatever. And now you're having a public meltdown about your relationship. Companies don't want shit to do with that. Like, I hate to say it, but it's like, again, think about your business. If you owned a retail store, you don't cry to your customers that your wife left you. They don't care, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks. But when you go to work, you leave that shit at home. You handle your business, and then you go home. It's the same with social media. I think the big miss, guys, is that you're coming into something and you want it to be a business, and you're treating it like a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, so have a clear, concise thing, and then make sure you're offering something. I mean, you know, that's key.
Here's the question that I have about that is because you said you want people to relate to you, right? Like you want people to kind of follow your story and be you. So how do you find that balance between, like you said, you know, keeping the page, you know, business per se related or whatever relates to whatever you're trying to sell or do, or show to people. And, you know, so is there like a balance that you need between like your personal stuff, or just keep the personal stuff always off? Because, you know, if you want,
I don't think it should be off because they can't relate to you. Yeah. If you take it off completely,
yeah.
I think the key is is just understanding how to do it. For example, John Meadows.
Yeah.
Okay. Rest in peace.
Okay.
Everyone knows his kids. Everyone knows his wife. Everyone knows he's a family man. He's that stuff. But if you look back, if you were to scroll his Instagram, it's very, very bodybuilding with a reminder that home base for him is family. That's the foundation. That's his why. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And then you see the boys here and there, or you see him at the gym. And I think all that stuff's cool. You know, like Isaac does a great thing. I think, you know, I'm hitting my cardio in the garage gym. We're killing it. Oh, little man's right here. Like, people can relate to that because every kid at that age, not every kid, but all the cool ones, you're lucky, want to hit the gym with dad. Dad's a fucking hero. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that stuff's fun to see and people can relate. And then you bounce back because I also think that makes you relatable. Because when you guys are in the gym and it's fuck you, kill everything, and then you turn around and you've got your kids, and that gives them that like, oh, there's balance. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
there's harmony between the two.
So that answers my question, because that's something that kind of I struggle with, because in the beginning it was like nobody even knew anything about me other than the fact that I just lift weights. You know, that's all anybody knew. And then I don't know if it was Isaac or somebody else brought up to me. He's like, hey, nobody knows anything about you other than that you lift weights. It's actually kind of boring looking at your page because it's all, you know, lifting weights and condemned. So that's why I'm asking, like, what was the right balance? So that's what I started doing, you know, sprinkling that other stuff in, you know, because I was the guy who was like, I don't fucking want people knowing my business. I don't care about people knowing my business and what I do outside of whatever I'm trying to display. But that's the kind of issue where there was just not a lot of people that could relate to me in any way other than just like, oh, he just lift weights, just another guy that does this. So that's what I was asking.
It's good when you show them that balance, and then also it gives them an idea of who your team is, because that's what it really is how does your wife come back to bodybuilding? You know what I'm saying? What is her role in this? Okay, what do you do when bodybuilding's, you know, when the prep is over? So they do like seeing like, oh, then he takes his wife out to eat afterwards and spoils her for a week because he put her through hell for 12. You know, that kind of stuff is definitely, you know, that's valuable, because we all know that, I mean, look, your guys' wives they're in this. Like, they know. They're fucked. They're in too deep. There's nothing they can do. Isaac's con is into competing like crazy. She's getting more crazy than him. It's good stuff. But, but, you know, like, it is important because a lot of people don't see that. And I get that question all the time from people. They'll ask, like, how do I get my wife more into this? Or and I'm like, if she doesn't want to be into it, don't ask her to be. But she does want to have a role. I can promise you that. Like, on some level. It doesn't mean she wants to go to the gym or any of those things, and she shouldn't have to. But, you know, I think what it really comes down to is it's individual. You have to decide for yourself. And this is the other thing, guys, and I think it's important. So even someone like myself, you're charging forward, you're doing it. Everybody's like, man, I'm making money, I'm doing all this. Like, he must just be on cruise control. Yeah. Just in the last month, I did another step back. I looked at myself and I'm like, wait a minute. So now here, my career on stage in my head is over. Yeah. Okay, what am I doing now? What's the brand? I mean, I literally, in the last month, dead serious, went back to ground zero and said, okay, where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? okay, what are the action items to make that happen in this little edge? So like I looked at my social media, and you guys in the last 2 days, if you go look at my posts, they're changing.
Yeah.
Like it's becoming, because there's a vision now. Whereas before, again, since being sick, I was just like tossing shit up and I'm lifting weights again. Well, quite frankly, I'm tired. If I was a viewer of me, I'm tired of hearing about being sick and now you're stronger. It's like, well, fuck, dude, you're 290 pounds. Were you that sick? Like your numbers are better than mine ever were now. So it's got to be like, what do I want to do next? And you rebrand. I mean, you know, obviously you guys know, like I'm friends with a lot of people in the industry who are uber successful, and they do that. They'll realize they kind of went on cruise control and they're like, oh, fuck, this isn't what I want. I gotta re-alter. I gotta re-look, you know?
Yeah.
So it's constant watching your own shit, and then also being open. I mean, when you guys are fortunate to have people around you that would tell you, you know, I mean, same thing. If you were to send me your social and say, or your, you know, what do you see? I would tell you, but then you decide what you want to do with that information.
Right.
Right. So that's another thing I wanted to, you know, touch base with you about is you've been around for so long, right? You see all these influencers or athletes, whatever the hell you want to call them. I don't know if there's the right title for it anymore, but you see them pop up, you see them come, you see them go. They're around for a year or two and all of a sudden disappear face of the earth. They go from, you know, they're making money, somebody paid them, to all of a sudden they're fucking gone. Nobody knows who they are. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to stick around for years and ensure that, like, you don't have to worry about how the fuck am I going to pay my bills in a year from now? Because let's say you do quit your day job, you go balls deep into, you know, bodybuilding or whatever the hell you want to do, your business venture, right? And how do you make sure that you're around for the years to come? Because you're not going to pay for the rest of your life in a year's worth of income in this industry, right? So you got to figure out a way how to stick around. How do you do that? I mean, you've been around for so long, and it seems like it's just getting better for you.
Staying relevant and having that longevity. That's more so like what we've noticed about you, you know? Like how did you get to that point? How do you stay there?
I think that's the step, though, is, again, treating it like a business and also standing your ground with what you want to do. For example, there are people that have much bigger followings, and I don't want to name direct names, but there's someone in our industry that's got over 1 million followers, not a bodybuilder, but should say not a competitive bodybuilder. And a friend of mine actually built a company around him and said, okay, let's see if I can utilize his branding to make money. And with over 1 million followers, they couldn't make any money because the kid didn't have that kind of turnover. Like, so people have this confusion. Oh man, he's got a lot of followers. He must be killing it. You know, 2 million followers. He must be making all this money. Sometimes, yes. A lot of times, no, you know, because people are just watching. So I think that the biggest key is this: stay true to what your vision is and understand that there is a crowd for all of it, you know, because, for example, I love using Brad because love him. I remember him before he was anything, and obviously he skyrocketed to, you know, an obscene status. I would not do what he's doing to build my following because it's not me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So although I think it's great, I think it's working. I got nothing but respect for how he's pulled it out and he's making money hand over fist. I'm not selling out for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even back when I could have and no one would have really noticed. Like, oh, you know, there were plenty of things that enter your mind. I think the key is again, rebranding and asking yourself, where am I? And look at what your following is. You know, I mean, for me, I'll be honest with you, it's been very, very easy because no one ever cared about the stage with me. I was making 6 figures before I was a pro off of bodybuilding. You know, so getting the pro card for me was like, oh, good, I got that done. It didn't, you know what I mean? And it didn't change anything. Didn't mean I was going to make more money. It really was, that was literally for me. And actually things got a little more difficult then because, like I just told you guys, I was like, shit. Okay. The initial thought was like, all right, now I'm going to try to go up the ladder. But I knew the whole time, like, I never was going to be a great pro. I knew that when I was trying to turn pro. So it was like, okay, I'm never going to be in that mix again other than like C-level shows. You know, maybe I can make a first call out, but no one cares. You know what I mean? So it really just came back to, again, what do they do? And I like to use examples like, for example, Rob Bailey. Why do we follow Rob? Rob doesn't have a great physique. Rob doesn't.
Right.
What's happening? Hell, he's just trying to get back. Then you start to realize he has a story. And I think that's the thing that I like to push on people is, what is your story? What's your brand story?
Yeah.
What's the, and again, does your story match with Condemned's story? And, for you guys, there's a reason you're successful with your sponsor is because it does, and the other thing is you work. And I gotta throw this in, even though it's slightly off topic. It's embarrassing to me how many people get in with companies and squander it. It baffles my fucking mind. And I hope people see this, because here's the deal. And I'm just going to break it down mathematically after I explain this. Yeah. So you get on with a company and they tell you, you got to put up X amount of posts and you got to do this. There's guys that don't even meet the number one. Then there's guys and girls who meet the number with no sort of thought process, just like, oh, I took a picture. I've had meetings with some of the guys that are part of brands I've been with and tried to help them. And they're like, but bro, I want to focus on my lifting. And I'm like, it's that distracting to push record on your phone. And I mean, to give you guys an idea, I like when I'm lifting super heavy, I like to hear, I like my music in my ears. And I realized oh shit, well, I only have one phone. And if I hit record, my music's not on anymore.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you know? You do a quick search, and there's an app that'll let your music keep running while you record. You're good.
Well, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really fucking complicated. So literally, I bring in a tripod to the gym. I don't even lift it because it's whatever setting it sits at, it's where it goes. I angle it so I can see my product I'm showing that I use and me. I push record. I walk over. I lift the weights. I turn it off. There's no distraction there. So don't be full of shit. You're just lazy.
Right.
And then they wonder why they can't get re-sponsored, or they get their foot in the door and why hasn't gone any further. Well, guys, like I told you guys when you started, when I started, I was getting free supplements. Then I was getting $500 a month. Then I was getting $1,500 a month. Then I was getting $3,000 a month. I was getting $4,500 a month. And I was getting $7,000 a month. This has been what I've done coming into companies. Well, they didn't just keep upping my pay because they thought it was fun. They were seeing value. Well,
Right.
Well, I think what's happening as well, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. There is this turn kind of in the industry with this whole, like you mentioned, chasing the IFBB Pro card. Mm-hmm. That I feel like now when people attain that Pro card, they have a company that reaches out to them, and all of a sudden they think they don't have to work for it anymore. It's like, well, they came to me, they want me to be on, and now I don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is where a lot of people get lost, because that should be your foot in the door where well, I already have this. Now let's see how far I can take this and get even more. Where it's like, no, I'm comfortable here. They get this comfortability feeling, oh, I'm an IFBB Pro, or I made it in the industry, I'm going to, be up here forever. This is not how it works. Not in the days of, you got, hungry, let's call it ambassadors that come in and they outsell IFBB Pros just because, like you said, they work hard and they try to, keep their content relatable, and they just keep working and pushing on trying to build their following. Mm-hmm. And so it's tough to kind of, break apart from this. Am I an athlete and focus on that, or am I an ambassador and focus on that? Where it's very easily to connect the two, and I don't get where there's this disconnect now of people.
Well, I think
bringing the two together.
What Dusty was saying was, and I think this is the problem with some of these guys, is that they feel like they're selling out by not being that hardcore bodybuilder, by recording what they're doing and making a quick post and doing what they're supposed to. And I feel like, that's just part of your job at this point when you're hired on and you're, part of a brand. It's not that hard, like you said, to just press record. You're not selling out. And I feel like that's the thing nowadays. They don't want to come off as a sellout. like, oh, I'm just recording my lifting, and I don't want to be the same person. This person's doing that, and this person's recording their lifting, and everybody's the same. I just feel like that's part of the reason the problem is these guys feel like sellouts when that's not really the case. They just need to stop being fucking lazy and just
do the damn thing. But these have to factor in that the game has changed. I mean, look, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand in 1995, Dorian Yates could be like, no, I'm here to work.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm here to do. Because guess what? That was all you had to do. There was a different world. Now, listen, when I turned pro, 2014, put up a post, IFBB Pro, blah, 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 dead serious. Now, I don't remember how many followers I had at that point, but decent amount, whatever. People are like, oh, you weren't a pro? They're following me. Right. And they see I'm getting ready for a show called the USA's. They don't even know that that's not a pro show.
Yeah.
Like no, yes, a lot of my following knew, but the point is that's how little value it is. Nobody was disappointed I wasn't. They thought I already was. Like, oh, you weren't a pro? And then, or when they see me, they're like, to this day, I'll be dying like, can't wait to see you, where you're at the Olympia. And I'm like, I'm nowhere near that good. and they'll immediately be like, no, bro, you're just humble. And I'm like, no, I'm just not stupid. So you got to know your role is the other thing. Like, for example, I was just talking with Michael, the owner of Condemned, about our guys. And you've got people that have their lane. Look at Justin, okay? That is a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. Put on a shirt, take that shit off, show us what you look like. Awesome, great sponsored athlete. Yep. Then you go down the line and you find someone like me, and it's like, okay, freaky, how do we cash in on that? Because I'm a tank top Mr. Olympia when I'm back to full size. Like, it's awesome, because it's just a ton of muscle, it's a ton of size, and you can't see what's wrong. So, perfect. Right. Know your role, run with that, And I think that those are the keys, but too many people come in and their goal is to get to where Justin is, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're blind to the fact that shit ain't happening. So if you don't make yourself valuable in another way, you have a problem. Right. It's funny, but we're on this podcast, and I have no qualms about saying if this were my company, there'd be athletes that are already gone that are here now. I just don't have patience for – it's not complicated. I need you to do this. If I send you a piece of paper that says this is what needs to be done and you sign the bottom and I sign the bottom and then you don't do it,
it's set in stone.
It's all good. It's business. I'm not mad at you. Just get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Talk to me on a personal level, but you don't work for me no more.
Well, speaking of that as well, now let's talk the flip side of the coin, right? Like, you want to give value to a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to give them as much value as you can so you can move up. But at what point do you have to start taking a step back and saying, I'm giving too much value for what I think it's worth? Like, at what point do you feel like you can say, hey, I want more. I feel like I deserve more, and I have more value than what you're, than what you're giving back to me now. Or do you just kind of sit back and wait for that to happen organically?
No, don't ever sit back and wait. You never. The answer is never yes if the question is never asked. If I were on where you guys are at and I came in and I never said anything, and this is any company, not a specific one. If I looked like I was branded up, and I was living and breathing this, and I looked like I wasn't going anywhere, I'd probably just leave you alone and just let me crank along. And then if it looks like I'm about to leave, I'll give you enough money to stay. But that's it. That's business. I hate to say it, but that's the game. And it's no disrespect to the owners of the companies, but that's business. So what I suggest is the same thing you would do if you were in my position, where when I met with Michael, we sat down. It was very simple. We sat down and it was like, okay, where are you at? Where am I at? As far as our two companies, Dusty being a brand, Condemned being a brand. Okay, this is what I make. What can you afford? And then I have to ask myself, in a case with a company like Condemned, what's my long-term gain? Because, just being forward, like I took less money with Condemned than I had made in the past because I said to myself, this would be a long-term good decision. I had offers that were more money that I did not take because I was like, I don't see these going anywhere, so you have to play those things out. And I think that that's key, but you do have to ask. But here's the thing. What I hate is when someone, and I'll say this as a business owner who's owned retail stores and other things, don't come to me and ask for a raise. Like, I'd like to make more money. I've been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
What? I don't care that you've been here for 2 years. What does that have to do with anything?
Right.
But if you come to me in 6 months after starting and you're like, dude, this is what I've done. Okay, here's where I'm at. And here's what I think I'm worth. And here's why. Then they can make a decision. You know what I'm saying? And they might say to you, just so you guys realize also, let's say it was July. And maybe they agree.
Right.
Maybe they're like, fuck, yeah, we need to. But they might say, hey, we have a marketing budget. And it's spent for 2021. But keep cranking. And in November of 2021, we're going to talk about what's happening in 2022. You down with that? And then you get to November, you factor out your deal, you write it all out, you're good to go, and bam, January 15th or whatever you guys get paid, there's your first $500 a month or whatever it is. And I think that that's the key, but you've got to provide that value, that proof, because a good business owner wants to pay you. That's the thing that people get confused on in this world. Like, if I was producing Michael $10 million a month that he didn't have, you think he'd have any problems paying me $2 million a month?
Nope.
No.
I mean, fuck, he might give me $5 million. Like, well, fuck, I wasn't here when he wasn't here. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's the key. It's like, what's your value? But I also think you have to understand there's different types of value. There's branding and there's sales. Okay. So sales is my discount code made you $5,000 this month. Sales solves everything. That's a number you want to see high. But you also want to factor in, you think Evan Centopani sells a bunch of animal? Truly? You think he directly sells a bunch of animal?
No, he's not in front of people's faces enough to do that.
Yeah. What he does is reminds people who the brand is. When you think of animal, you think of Evan. You think of back in the day, Frank McGrath.
Frank McGrath,
you know what I mean? Like, that's what you think of because they embodied themselves with a brand. So that's called branding. You know, to give you guys an idea. So when I was done with iForce and I literally just put up a post and I was like, so I just signed a new contract. Who's it with? Boom. There were only two answers, mutant and animal, because people knew where I fit.
Right.
Yeah. And they were, and 50% of them were right. And that's where I ended up, you know, so it becomes very obvious when you're lying. I didn't give them any hints. Pick any brand in the world. Where's Dusty going? And it lines up, you know, so when they think of it, it matches, you know, and I feel like that's a key thing with a good company as well, is they're branding their brand and then they choose their athlete. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, so that's why if you look at a brand, they should all fit. I mean, I thought Rich Piana was genius. He basically went out and found a bunch of baby riches and brought them on and said, we are that freaky, messy show. Like, we're the freak show, you know, and it all fit. Yeah. You saw a dude with tattoos on his face and arms and he was jacked. He was like, I'm sponsored. You're like, 5%, obviously. He's like, well, yeah. Where else would I be? You know?
Exactly.
So but yeah, I mean, that's it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making sure you fit into that brand and making sure that you know where you fit into that is a big part. Like, am I the sales guy or am I the branding guy? Or am I a little bit of both? Can you do a little bit of both?
You should be both. I mean, you should be both because there's got to be some way to prove a value.
Right.
But I think that, you know, it's got to be, you know, you should have the goal should be when you come in to be to do the sales. And then you should be continuing the sales as you build your brand and your following, then people connect. You see what I'm saying? Like when you come into a smaller brand, it's easier to do because you're growing with them. Like Condemned is a great company, but they're growing just like you guys are. Imagine where you'll be in 5 years. Imagine where they'll be in 5 years. And imagine how much better it is for both of you if you're together. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, a lot of people don't know this, but when I first started with the iForce, the first year we went to the Arnold, we were actually sharing a booth with a distributor. And we had like a little corner where I stood and no one knew who the fuck I was and no one knew who the fuck they were.
Right.
And we were just hustling. And we literally stayed, I remember this day, I called it the Blue Door Inn. We stayed at a motel outside of town that had the doors on the outside of the building. Like, we weren't even in a hotel that you walked inside. Like, they were pinching to make it. You know what I mean? And then you fast forward 5 years, and after the Olympia, we got 3 tables at one of the clubs. Everyone knew who I was. They were making money. You know, and we were staying in the nicest hotel in Vegas, you know, so it's like, that's kind of fun to me. I think a lot of people miss that part that's valuable is, you know, there's a reason we stuck together for 7 years, but also we worked, and it's something I was just talking to Nikki about, like, I was down to do whatever. Like, it was a small company. So, like, you know, we're filming, and then it was like, okay, we're done. And we're done with the booth. We didn't pay people to undo our booth. We were doing it ourselves. And like, I'm in there taking shit apart and putting it away and whatever. You know what I mean?
You grow like that camaraderie of like, we're all on the same boat. This thing kicks off. We all kick off. So let's just do what we have to do until that kind of happens and starts happening where you guys, you know what I mean? Like if you feel like you're part of that family, like you're willing to put in the work for that family to grow and get better.
Do the dirty work.
Well, and that's what you should do, because I think a lot of guys, they come in, you know, and I'm hoping that as this grows, people will start to follow you guys and really see what you're doing. Like most guys come in, especially if they got their pro card, like you said, or they think they've got a little clout. They come in and they're like, hey, Condemned, what can you do for me?
Yeah.
Right.
No, what can we do for each other? And there is a value. Don't get me wrong. Like if your company can't brand you and build you, and you're just hustling their product, you might be confused on what you're doing because only one of you is working for the other one. But if you're both working together and you're building each other, now you're talking. You know, I mean, why do you think that they flew their videographer to Arizona to film you guys in your gym? That's them doing their part. They're making sure you're getting seen, you're getting the content out there, people getting to know you, they're seeing you train, they're seeing your business, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're helping us build our
company that's proving, because they could very easily only support, you know, me and Justin and whatever. But what they see is the reason it went in the order it did, guys, is because you put forth the work first. You were jamming as 2 ambassadors and doing well, and they were like, hold up. These guys deserve a look. You know, we got a lot of ambassadors that have not seen the other side of Sway's camera.
Right.
Because have they earned it? No. And that's the thing I think a lot of people fuck up on, man, is everyone's like, what about me? Well, what did you do? Like losers cry about, why am I not getting seen? Winners look and go, have I given them a reason? You know, because, you know, in this particular company is a prime example. Like I use you guys all the time as example when people are like, oh, should I join? I'm like, sure. And if they tell me I'm not really getting any value, I'm like, well, then you're not giving any value, because I see 2 guys that are giving and getting quite a bit, you know, and you guys are right. I mean, we talked about this when you guys started. You guys were where I was when I started. No one had any fucking idea who I was, and I had won 1 show. Yeah. That's when I started. Like, you know,
that's crazy.
This
that's
thought
crazy
process that you have to, you know, and I think you guys are in a powerful position. And I say you guys, I mean ambassadors, because you do have guys that are getting signed right out the way. They turn pro, they get signed, and they're not hustling. And you know what it does? It does exactly what you said in reverse. I look over and I go, well, here's John Doe that I signed, and I'm paying him, maybe it's pennies, but I'm paying him something. I ain't got shit from him. But then I look over here and I got these ambassadors hustling, wearing the clothes all the time, branding it. Oh, they got a podcast. Oh, they're doing this. Shit. Maybe I'm paying the wrong guy. You know?
Yeah, most definitely. There was a question that I got a few times that I feel like you'd be the great guy to answer as well. Now, the importance of utilizing all platforms. Is there something to it, like utilizing YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Bumble or whatever the hell else you're using? Is there something to be said about utilizing all platforms, or maybe one, or pick one to go with? Because it seems like you were the YouTube guy for a while, and then Instagram is kind of where it took a turn. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how do you go about that? Or how did you go about that?
Here's the truth: your followers are everywhere. Okay, so in a perfect world, you would do all of them and do all of them well.
Okay.
Now now I just said that. I use two. I use Instagram and I use YouTube, and I don't do YouTube as much right now. I mean, since I have not been filmed my guy in 18 weeks. He was there the week I went in the hospital, and I haven't filmed with him since. YouTube can be awesome. It's very difficult to get going. Very, very difficult to get going. It used to be really easy. Now it's really hard. I think what I would recommend for people is do everything themselves if they can. Filming, editing, get it up there, and understand that the content that they're viewing is more important than how good the editing is or that kind of stuff. That will come. Yeah. So get those things up if you're going to do that, and then pick a platform. Now, I'll be honest, the easiest platform to build right now is going to be like Snapchat, and what's the fucking goofy one the kids do all the time? I can't even think of it.
TikTok.
Yeah. Those are the ones that would be the easiest. I could probably double my following on Instagram, on TikTok in 4 months.
Yeah.
But you need to do your homework and understand what the platform is and how do you make TikTok work for a bodybuilder? And there is value there. I'll be honest with you, the reason I haven't done it is not enough value for me. I can make my money out of what I'm already doing, and I'm a big believer in going all in on your strengths. Right. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't do that very well. He should focus on that. And I'm like, maybe he should put all of the focus on what he's good at and just cash in as big as possible on that thing. Because you're not, I'm not at a whim of Instagram. Like if Instagram disappeared tomorrow, well then
you'd be fine.
Everyone else also would be looking for somewhere to go play, Right. I am tempted to get in on those things, but it really comes down to, for someone like me, time management. Because if you're going to do it, like for me, I would want to do it right. I'd want to make sure it's blown up. And again, old men dancing on TikTok is not what anyone's looking for. So, you got to make sure you're
give it a run,
Dusty. Right.
Give it a run, man.
I think it would definitely. I think it would blow up.
I think it would blow up.
A lot of people like to laugh at a fat old guy doing shit wrong, but But no, you are correct that the best way in a perfect world would be to do all of them, but I don't think most do.
I
think more important than anything is just understand your brand and put it out there, and do not get away from it. I think that's my biggest thing. Is a lot of people they're saying what would work, or have you ever? I'm sure you guys have been there. You put up a post and you toss it up real quick, and you throw it up, and bam, it explodes, and you're like,
yeah.
And then you put up another one that you put a lot of thought into, and you're like, this is gonna fucking knock people on their ass. And then 26 people comment, and you're like,
it bombs. Yeah, it bombs.
Really? That was my soul, people. Like,
right. Right.
So I don't. Shouldn't put too much. Don't put too much thought into that portion of it, because again, if and it's something that I like to factor in, like girls' pages. You ever notice a girl who's got 100,000 followers and she's got 4,000 likes on a post, but there's like no comments because there's no traction there. Yeah, it's just but then you got girls who put up those exact same posts, but somehow have created a following on who they are. I mean, it's it's one of those things where like I laugh because I've been trying to convince Nikki to do more marketing and make more money off of social media just because I laugh. Like, you know, she puts up a post. I mean, I literally, this is the last post she put up. 4,178 likes and 194 comments. She doesn't comment back. The very next one down, 3,800 likes, 204 comments. The next one.
That's engagement.
A low one, 2,300, almost 2,400 likes. Only 111 comments on that one. Weak. Like I used to tell her all the time, I'm like, I'm not reading your comments till they at least hit 100 because it's boring. Meanwhile, I can't get 100 comments if I were to deadlift 1,000 pounds. You know, and I have more followers. So the point is engagement. Like these people are in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the magic is, are you getting your people engaged? And that's why I love putting out, like, everyone knows that I eat off of square plates. Everyone knows that I love Splenda. You know, dumb shit like that tells you
every
that people
time
are
we
paying
train,
attention.
Yeah, every time we train, it's like we have a joke now. Every time we train, I put a plate on, and then, you know, we always look at it like, what the fuck, Marcel? This is the wrong way. Dusty would have a fucking meltdown in here. I swear to God, every training session, it comes up at least once. Or like the holes are not aligned. What the fuck? Dusty would have a meltdown.
Yeah, we're not gonna do proper airflow here. It's funny. I had a guy do it at the gym the other day. He got done with a leg press, and I'm like, "You done?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You want me to leave him on there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I started taking him off. And he comes over. He's like, "Oh, I would take him off." I go, "No, I'm just fixing him. You've got some of the wrong ones on there because I only use one type of plate." So he had both types, and I wasn't going to ask the guy to take some of them off. I was like, "I'll do this. I have a mental disorder. It's fine."
You would not be able to come train at our gym because we have a lot of weights, but they don't all match yet. Okay? Right. We're not there
yet. Eight of them match. All right, 8 of them.
8 of them.
Yeah,
8 of them, and then we have other sets. So
I'd have to start.
It might be a tough time.
That's how it was when the Muscle Factory first opened. He didn't have enough of the plates that I liked. So then what I started to do, I was like, well, if I do 4 of the ones I like, 4 on each side, the next one can be wrong as long as they're both wrong. So that they still match right to left. You know, I see people in the gym sometimes. There was a guy in there one day, I'll never forget. He literally had on a 45-pound bumper plate on one side of a squat bar and a 45 on the other. And I'm like, I looked at Tommy. I think that's a personal attack against me. I think he's purposely fucking with me. I think he literally was like, "Fuck that, Dusty. I'm gonna do this shit. Watch this."
Wait, I got a question. Hold up. What's the correct way to put a plate on? Is it numbers facing in or numbers facing out?
In. Oh my God. In.
Why?
See?
What the fuck?
Told
Why?
you.
Why? Because any adult doesn't need to see the numbers to know what a 45 is. I don't need to see that shit. Yeah. See, like, plus,
but why hide it?
Plus, think when you're sliding it. All right. So you know the plates. If you got the ones that got the numbers, if they're facing in, that means the lip is in. So when you go to pull them off that leg press, your hand's right there. It's already tucked in like this, and I just pull it off. What, I'm going to pull it off like
I'll
this?
take that. You just blew my mind there. I didn't think of it that way.
I told him, Dusty.
There's a logic right here.
I don't use a lot of it.
It's 50% crazy, 50% logic. It all works out.
He will literally put plates on, and I will pull them back off and fix it. I'm like, I
flip them and put them back on.
I'm not Dusty Adel where they got to line up, but this shit's got to be on the right way. I don't like this shit.
Trust me, I've seen Tommy. I've seen somebody grab a plate and go to put it on, and he's like, "Oh, not that one." At the gym over at Muscle Factory, before he had so many plates, when we would start loading up the hack, people would start bringing me my plates. I was like, "Oh, thanks, guys." It's like everybody knew I was a lunatic.
See, but there's the thing that you were talking about. People relate to that. They know that that's your thing, and that keeps your following going. They know, that's Dusty. It's like weird shit like that that keeps popping up is what keeps you relatable and keeps you around. Like the square plate, like your dogs. You're being a fucking lunatic when it comes to having airflow through your hack squat. You know?
That's not lunatic. This is power.
That's science. That's bodybuilding science right there.
Yeah. What's funny though is you're right. And I think that that's the thing is if you can produce that constantly, then people click with it, like you said. And I think that, you know, the other thing is don't tell people, show them. You know, that's a big thing. Like every time I hear someone say, I'm so hardcore, I'm like, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's that old famous saying, if you're good, you tell everyone. If you're great, they tell you. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, that's what you want to be. You want to reach that level. And so instead of telling people, oh, I train like a maniac, post a video up.
Do it.
Like, you know, people will see it and they don't. And the other thing is it doesn't have to be a crazy feat of strength. I mean, look, I ask clients all the time to send me videos when we start. Yeah. And I know when they come through, I'm going to be like, no, not right. You know what I mean? And I correct it. And then the next week I correct it again. And hopefully eventually I get the intensity where I want to be. And every now and then I'll have a new guy start. I wish I could remember who the most recent one was. I got sent me his videos and I watched and I could see, I'm like, he's about to fail. I was like, oh, that'll be his last set or his last rep. And I see him breathe at the top and go again. Yeah. And I'm like, then he barely gets down. I go, oh, he's going to rack now. Oh, fuck. He's going to go. Okay. I never need to speak to him again. I literally was like, don't ever send me a video again. We're good. Yeah. Like, you have it. Good. Like you wouldn't train any different with me than you do with yourself. And that's what I look for, you know? So that's the stuff where when people see it and it's exciting. And I think the other factor is young guys, and I did have a client just barely tell me this. He's like, oh, I get nervous in the gym. People are watching this and that. They think that if their numbers aren't whatever, you know, the only people I ever see in the gym are people that are doing stuff good. Like those are the ones I notice. I'll look over. I mean, it's funny, but like I get irritated in South Carolina. People don't put their weights back enough. It's not as bad as Chicago. Chicago was a fucking shit show. But they still leave their plates on shit. And I, you know, so I was bitching about it one day. I'm like, motherfucker. Like, so now I yell at people. I act like I own the gym. I'm like, take that shit off. What are you doing? But I did also notice the other day. So I'm sitting there and I see this kid squatting. And I mean, they're flawless reps. And it clicked on me. I'm like, you know what's funny? I don't think I've ever been to a gym that had more people squatting perfectly in my entire life. Like every time I turn around, someone's got, I don't care if it's 135 or 225, but they're like flawless fucking reps. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's how it's done. Like, and we're talking about 225. I mean, that's a warm up for me. And it still blows my mind when I see it done perfectly. And that's why I wish people would realize you put up a hard set. It don't matter how much weight it is. I want to see how hard you work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Exactly.
That's the part that's cool. So,
yeah. All right. To wrap things up, man, it seems like the recurring theme is throughout our whole conversation is know your brand, you know what your kind of niche is and run with that and be you and stay consistent and, you know, good things should come. So, you know, does that kind of wrap it up pretty well for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Patience. And then, you know, keep, you know, like we talked about at the beginning, keep looking back at your branding too. You know, you can always be better. And I think that's the biggest factor is if things aren't clicking or maybe you're just not happy with them, you know, like that's what I said. That's where I hit recently is I was like, I want to do more. And I have a few very specific goals, both in following and in money. And I'm like, all right, now, and I know how to make that happen now. And then it's just a done deal. Give me 6 months. It's done, you know?
Right. And then really quickly before we get out of here. So what is kind of the exit strategy? Well, maybe you have one, maybe you don't. Exit strategy out of this business, or if you're ever planning on exiting it. Do you have any backup plans where you're like, okay, when I'm done with this is where I'm going to go for? Or how do you prepare yourself for that?
I mean, I wouldn't call them backup plans because it's when one thing's over, the next thing begins. But what I will do as far as the athlete of Dusty will change. So what I will be doing will change. You'll start seeing, you know, I plan to be peeled all the time because being lean is actually really easy for me. Like when I started that 75 hard, the first week I accidentally lost 12 pounds. I was like, fuck. I had to increase my food. That was from walking every day. I would walk the dogs for 45 minutes, and I'm like, shit. Okay, I better eat more. But so I'll get really lean, and then what I'm putting out there will change. I'll get a little more instructional for sure. And that's the plan on that front. And then as far as other businesses, I've just got I'm going to probably buy a couple other businesses again. Things that I can, when I've got more time to focus on something else, I'd like to build more. I think the biggest key for me, and I hope most people get to the point of, is I don't ever want to retire. That's the dirtiest, ugliest word on the planet to me. I love working. I work 7 days a week. I can't imagine not working 7 days a week. And I think one thing that successful people have in common is they want more of whatever it is. Like, and I'm not talking money necessarily. I mean, maybe it is money, but you know, when I got into bodybuilding, I always tell people my goal was to get to 225. I was like, if I'm 225, I'm gonna be fucking huge. And I got to 225 and I was like, this is not fucking huge. Okay. And then it became more and more and more. And then I realized the chase is what I loved, you know? Yeah. And when I started making money, it was the same. Like I remember when I first made $36,000 a year, I was like, ballin', fucking right, baby. You know? Yeah. And then it's 100 you want, and then 200, and you get to 200 and you're like, and I'll be honest with you, like I reached a point in my life where I said, what is the top 1% of the world? How much is that? And I was stunned to find out, and I think it's in the U.S., but like 400,000 makes you the top 1%, percentage-wise. That's not a very big number. I was like, oh, I thought that would be bigger. And don't get me wrong, it's not small, but that's very achievable if you've got a thought process. So then that became the next thing. I was like, well, I got to make 400 grand. Like, have to. You know, so that part. But again, what's funny is, and, you know, I don't know if you guys have reached this point yet or not, but it's a game. It's not even about the money. Right. Like, you know, it literally becomes a game, and then it becomes a tax game of, okay, I got to buy something. Fuck, what am I going to do to get rid of some of this money? Like, you know, but that's the fun. Right. And I think that's what I love about bodybuilding and I love about businesses. It's nonstop. You will never be happy because if you're happy, you're fucked. It's over.
See, right? I like what you said there with that you never want to retire. You work 7 days a week and you wouldn't have it any other way. That is something that's like my current goal right now, is to get to that point. Because I'm not fully there yet with it. There's still things I got to do to, you know, put a roof over our head that I don't necessarily enjoy doing or like doing. So my goal is to be able to say the same shit that you just said. Like, I want to be able to say, I don't give a fuck. I'll work 8 days a week if there was an 8th day, because, you know, I like doing it. I like what I do. I love my day-to-day life, and I don't dread, you know, waking up and being like, okay, well, I got to do some work here. So
I think that's the powerful thing, man.
I like that you said that.
When you look at it,
I like that you said that.
I just posted something about this that Kevin O'Leary talked about, but it hit me because that's what I live is I like waking up and having to, knowing in my head I'm about to go start a work day, but also knowing in my head I don't have to. Like, I don't have to work today. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, you know, and that's a place where you want to be, where things are clicking to the point that it's like, no, this is purely love. Like, you know, I had a client that literally just started with me barely. They were like, you said every 5 days, but that means I'm going to send you pictures on the weekend sometimes. I'm like, what do when you go on vacation? I'm like, I work on vacation. I don't like days off. I get stressed out. I tried. I made it one day on vacation, and I was like, she's like, how about you just work 3 hours every morning? I'm like, okay, deal.
I will compromise with you.
Yes. And that made the whole trip better. So
yeah, for sure.
Right. All right, Dusty, man, we appreciate you coming on and kind of give us some rundown on some of these things. Any final thoughts from any of you guys? Anybody want to throw in anything else? Plug your sponsors.
I don't have any sponsors or anything that I want to talk about, but no, you know what? I will say this. I do want to put this up because, and I don't even give a shit that everybody follows already knows, but so obviously I'm giving the whole line. and I can have whatever I want as far as the products go. But I really wish that more people would trust me on doing the intra workout. If you're doing the C block, I do every day. 1 scoop of the lemon lime C block. I only do 1 because I don't need the carbs that much. And then I do 2 scoops of the Confine, the lemon coconut or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Awesome, number 1, but I swear by it. And all of my clients, because I have most of them doing it now, same thing, because here's the big deal. No one has stomach issues from the carbs. And different carb sources people do. So, again, I'm sure half of you people that are watching this will be like, oh, that's a Ryan plug. For those of you who actually buy, use Isaac or Marcel's code. I don't give a shit. Just trust me and try it.
Discount code Marcel10.
Because I swear by it. Like, it's so funny. Like, it's the one thing I like. I tell people, I'm like, dude, just bump into me in the gym then. I promise you I will have that on me because that's what I do. And it's just one of those things. So, again, that's back to that thing in the beginning. When you get with a company, their products actually work, you can comment and not be full of shit. So give those 2 a shot if you do nothing else. And they're not I don't think those are anywhere near the most popular products. They're just my favorites. So give them a crack. And if you guys aren't already doing that combo, trust me. But Marcel, the carbs first. Then I don't want you fucking this up. It doesn't mix the same.
Whoa. I'm going to do this shit opposite. Just to piss you guys off.
You're going to shrink.
You know, it's like I'm already tiny as it is. Like, what am I going to shrink to? You know what I mean? Like, can't get smaller than this. Fuck it. Let's go.
He's going to put it on backwards again. All right, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the Polish way. All right. Thank you, guys. And Isaac, go ahead and hit him with the Magic 4.
Yes. Like, subscribe, share, and comment, please. Okay?
Cool. All right. We're out. Thanks, Dusty.
No doubt. See you guys.
Thanks, man.